we should be going. Okay, well, this is Get the News Straight. I'm your host, Glenn Sutphin. This is my cohort, and compatriot, and co-host, Chris Dorsey. Hello, cohort.
Hey, how's it going, bro? It's we're live from Studio B tonight. It's Sunday. It's December the 14th, 2014. We are live from Southside, Richmond, Virginia, and we are definitely in occupied territory.
Occupied, yes. We're in FEMA Region 3. Occupied territory. We used to be Virginia. State of Virginia. We will be State of Virginia again, but right now we're in occupied North America.
Well, I do say that some of us, the people, we are the body of the people. We act as militia under Article 1, Section 13 of Virginia Constitution, and we are the top lawful authority in this state, and we're here. This is just an intelligence briefing for whoever is viewing this video to expose the criminals behind the government from the highest levels, where we directly confront folks like Jeff Lacker, the president of the Richmond Federal Reserve Bank, or so-called Congressman Bobby Scott, to the, what we're going to deal with tonight is a lot of counterintelligence agents, useful idiots,
narcs, whatever you want to call them.
FBI informants, feds, undercovers, and we're going to expose that basically when you watch the news, you're looking at a combination effort from the government, including but not limited to the police, the media themselves, FBI informants, feds, undercovers, and...
Here we have a technical difficulty.
Please choose a sponsored video. Your content will begin shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Bear with us.
Anyway,
Love live.
So what we're going to get to is that, these folks have already exposed themselves. We have video of some of them, telling us live on with a camera right in front of their face that they're FBI informants, and then we'll show a clip, in just a couple minutes that's from the local NBC affiliate that's titled "Police Working with Protesters," and then we'll show you communications and messaging online that these folks are publicly stating that they're working with the police, and furthermore, when you get to the bottom line of what they're doing, all they are doing is surrendering to the police, surrendering to the government at a government court building, and then surrendering at the state capitol of Virginia.
That's not all they're doing. And then they're laying down and dying.
Right. I'm talking. You're correct. Okay, because there's an escalation of this psyop. We did see, we'll segue into, I guess, just getting into the regular flow of the show, where we talk about kind of analyzing the intelligence. That's what we do. Okay, so what did you think about the congressional staffers that went out and did the mass surrender ritual? When we're talking about that, I'm sure those of you who will watch this program know that there's this Ferguson, Mike Brown shooting, and the subsequent other deaths that have been happening for decades.
Yeah.
That there is the call and response that's most popular is the hands up, don't shoot, and then that's when they put their hands up.
Don't shoot.
Now we're never surrendering because I'm armed. So since I'm armed, I'll never have to put my arms in the air.
They're worthy ones that march around Virginia, of Richmond and Carytown with the weapons unloaded that were at the last one.
Right.
That surrender. We surrender, but carrying your weapon.
Right. There was just, okay. Now again, maybe tonight we're gonna focus a little bit on the left wing counterintelligence agents, but there are the right wing, and when I say that, I would say like traditional Republican libertarians. Now we're talking about, and I don't know if any of these folks are genuine or not. Maybe they are, and they really believe in their own dogma. We're now with the Ferguson psyop. There was a little bit of crossover. There was Cop Block, which is a counterintelligence operation in with at least the local folks who run it are controlled opposition at the very least, and certainly there's much more to it than that. Always working with the police, always getting paid by the police, even if it's pretend suits and so forth like that. Then we have like the left wing, the Occupy movement, the local Maoist, the local communist,
wing nuts,
right?
Who would fill
SDS.
There's so many of them, and they all start blending together.
And they do work together. And they work together, and we will see in the videos that we show of this that these folks, they're out allegedly protesting the police. They're out allegedly, but they're working with the police, and the only folks that they really come after are the folks who are exposing the police for their cover-ups. And the police, I mean, they're basically like just the armed structure. They're like the occupation army.
Yeah, they're the standing army.
They're the standing army for the criminal government that is controlled by a private bank called the Federal Reserve Bank, which is controlled by a foreign private bank called the Bank for International Settlements that controls all the countries of the world, but directly all but 3 of the countries of the world.
Yeah, we got into that.
We'll move on, but anyways, that is the basis. And when you get to the fact that you start talking about the Richmond police or the state police or the state capitol police or the FBI, who are all working together,
or the Department of Homeland Security,
they're all working together. There's no
and
separation.
The newspaper.
Of course, the newspapers.
We saw them there too.
The newspapers, right? The Chris Thomas from Channel 12 News, the video with him and Steve Drew, and it's like
the media mafia.
Right. Or we go to the Richmond City Council meeting, and what do we see? Don Mark, who's former head of the Virginia Democratic Party, now a fixer for Dwight Jones, the so-called mayor of Richmond. And what does he do? He basically is, talking to his intimate friends, Melissa Hippolyte from Channel 6, and Ned Oliver from Style Weekly, and Graham Mumaw from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. That's what they do. They work together. They all work together. The local 6, 8, and 12, that's our NBC, ABC, and CBS affiliates. The Richmond Times-Dispatch, which is owned by Warren Buffett, Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway. So we know who runs these things around here. Richmond Times-Dispatch, Style Weekly, corporate-owned, pushing forward a corporate agenda, and we can get into like what kind of individuals and what the sexual preference of most of the media officials.
Maybe another time when we can pull in some more.
Right, but we'll just leave that for a teaser. Anybody who knows what I'm talking about knows what goes on. And when I say they have an intimate relationship, then that's exactly what I mean. And so they're all working together. This is Operation Mockingbird, which is Google it if you don't know about it. You should know about it if you're watching this program.
Here's the cool thing about being in Studio B.
Right. Operation Mockingbird, that is the CIA's control over the media. It's probably, they're probably calling it something different now. That's what has been declassified and what they've been doing since the late 40s, early 50s, and before that, the OSS, they had their own operations too. But if you just look
Here we
into
go. Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird was a secret campaign by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, that should be Cocaine Import Agency, to influence media. Begun in the 50s, it was initially organized by Cord Mayer, and you see more. But anyway, yeah, you go Google this stuff. It's right there.
Yeah, I mean, we've been exposing Operation Mockingbird, you know, with the 9/11 cover up locally here with Tom Silvestri and the Richmond Times Dispatch, where they're putting just completely false information out there, and they're also it's not just like police, government, media. It's also universities,
right.
Like the Virginia Commonwealth University here, but all the universities, because Virginia Commonwealth University is the first university in America to have a Department of Homeland Security major. You can major in Homeland Security. I mean, it's just such a Fed-run city because we have a Federal Reserve Bank here.
We say we're on the front line here.
Right. We're
facing these people
right.
dead on at
right.
point blank range. Trust me.
Point blank range, and we're all armed. And well,
we all have arms.
We all have arms, and I'm always armed. And I'm always ready to defend my life, and
I'm always that too.
And we've got it. So Operation Mockingbird, and we can talk about
part of MK Ultra.
Of course,
was that
that's part of Operation Artichoke.
Yeah,
I mean. It's Operation Monarch, and it's probably something. It's probably something different at this point now. Anyway,
well, they keep changing it, like, oh, it's ISIS, it's ISIL, it's IS, it's Al Qaeda
in Yemen.
Oh, because they made a comeback, they're going on tour again.
Right. Okay. And if we take it back to Al Qaeda, what is Al Qaeda? That is the base. It's another Central Intelligence operation. It's another Mossad operation. It's the database. It was the way in which covert banker controlled government interest and money got to the Mujahideen during another. I mean, it's
Contra affair, Iran Contra.
Think about this. When has Afghanistan not been actively occupied by institutions that are working together and running drugs with the cover of some sort of need to have an imperial force invade them? First, in our lifetime.
Rome.
Oh, back before Rome. Alexander the Great.
I think everybody was.
That.
Okay, Babylon.
Okay.
Babylon.
Well, so it's the old Babylon trick then.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the old Babylon trick. During my lifetime.
Yeah, our lifetime.
During our lifetime, it was the Soviets. Then the Soviets, who were also funded and financed by these same bankers that have always been in control. Then the Soviets say, "Oh shit, our shit's going wrong. Like, we fucked up. Now, we gotta leave." So, who's left running the drugs now at this point? And it's not like, the Russian Soviets weren't running the drugs with the CIA. They were doing it, together the whole time. But now it's a drug running operation of the Central Intelligence Agency. But they'll also come in and control the, psyche and mindset of the United States. They had to, because why are we in Afghanistan? Because somebody, blew something up in our home state, in Virginia, at the Pentagon, and 3 buildings in New York, in the United States, fell at free fall speed magically into their own footprint, and all of a sudden now folks who seem to have interest in having these things happen are making billions of dollars as a result, and these same folks, they have investments in the military-industrial complex, and so it's these same folks. It's a pretty simple operation. It needs to be toppled, and we're going to get into a little bit of the minutia of who's doing that around here, and how the American people are the only threat to these Zionist bankers in control of everything.
Because we want to throw them in prison and worse.
Right. We want
justice.
And
they know this. That's why they're afraid of everybody.
And that's why this is so funny, because the controlled opposition, whether we're talking about the same folks from Occupy or the right-wing Tea Party folks or whoever it is, they spend so much time going after us and so little time going after who they claim to oppose, which is the government. But again, these folks are undercovers, and they control the opposition. There is no legitimate opposition. There are no legitimate groups. And we can start talking about the groups that we know have been infiltrated by the FBI. That's the Tri-Cities Liberty Alliance. That has been infiltrated by the FBI. Occupy. Well, we were pointing them out.
Occupy, I think, was actually almost started.
That was Army intelligence.
Well, that's what most of them are. We're finding out is they're all somewhere along the line started by government agencies to move the people in a certain direction.
Like a honeypot.
Yeah.
It's like a honeypot for the government, meaning this is going to gather all the folks. So either you gather all the followers, or you gather all the leaders, and then you lead the followers in a different direction, and you neutralize the leaders. And then what were they talking about? The FBI plots to assassinate certain folks in Occupy. Now that's a very small percentage of folks that aren't actually feds themselves, and we know that the Occupy Richmond was obviously infiltrated by the Richmond police. Yeah. We know that Army intelligence had infiltrated that, and we can say whose name they were. That was Bill Nelson, who was Army intelligence. FBI Fed agents were, Phil Wilato, Alan Levenberg, both from, having close associations and direct association with Department of Homeland Security. Who else was in there? That's Nate Stickle. He's going to be coming in here. And we're verifying this stuff like we do with the election fraud, using their own words on videotape, using their own media outlets, and in particular, we'll run a piece called Police Working with Protesters, and just kind of watching and seeing what's going on, and knowing that these folks are getting led in the complete wrong direction. They're standing surrounded by the police and surrendering to the police, and they're not asking for anything concrete. And these things happen all the time, and they're being whipped up into a fervor
to fight amongst themselves inside this group, inside this ring of police.
That's the bottom line.
You start looking at it, you got this ring of police surrounding a bunch of people, and then these people, there's mixed, there's white, there's black, there's,
with this group.
And then all of a sudden inside this little group you start getting kill white people. Black people only matter.
And who are a lot of the people who are saying this are so-called white people. Now, again,
holding up signs that say "kill white people," and it's
I'm a little more pink than I am white, or
I'm not really white either.
Beige, whatever. But the thing is, they want the thing that matters to them is the money. Money talks and bullshit fucking walks. That is the bottom line of all this stuff. And anything that they want to divide the people in anything other than money, they don't want folks to start going, all right, let's divide up rich versus poor.
Yeah.
Or rich versus everybody, wealthy versus everybody else.
Wealthy versus the poor.
Right, but they don't want movements. They don't want movements based on, and when it can't be helped, then what do? What was the 99% controlled by? The 1%. Again, who was running and infiltrated all this Occupy Richmond stuff more than any other group in this town was something called the Federal Reserve Bank Police. Did you know that the Federal Reserve Bank had police and an intelligence arm and were infiltrating all of these groups? If you didn't, now you know. They're the ones that control everything, but specifically they work with the Virginia State Capitol Police, which is another intelligence arm that infiltrates all of these local Richmond, protest groups, anything like that. And they worked with the Special Events Unit of the Richmond Police Department, who works with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which works with Homeland Security, which is where they stand during these freaking things while they're surrounding all the people. They just stand. I mean, it's like they cut, like, we had the protest and they don't even have to go. They just have to go, oh, we're at work. Like, they come to our neighborhood at work and this is where they protest. And it's not like they protest and bang on our windows or anything. Like, we surround them and they surrender to us. And, then they want to march down the street. We march them down the street. And then they surrender again. This fucking shit is great. We don't have to do anything.
And then they march back and then they have a die-in.
And then they fucking die. And then so like they surrendered. Then they got down on their knees and surrendered. Oh, that's what they do before like they execute them. And then they just like do a mass ritual die-in.
And then they lay there. Well, I guess that's as good as laying on the couch doing nothing.
I mean
it's you get people that sit on the couch that want to be keyboard warriors on this stuff, tell us how great we are because we're out there. Which,
I mean, I don't really even see that too much of that. But I will say this.
But then you get the ones that are marching around. They got the hands up. And don't shoot. Hold on, I gotta get on my knees. And then you get on the knees, and then, all right, that's not good enough. Let me lay down. All right,
Okay.
And what good does that do?
So here's another thing that I notice with these people, and that this is a way that these agents betray themselves when they're bullshit, when they're out in an event. And they don't even know what the event is for. Or they're out at an event and they can't explain, simple, basic things like, hey, wait a second, this event's bullshit. Oh, why is it bullshit? Well, number one, because you're cheerleading the event and you say you're an FBI agent and you have so many connections to the police. I mean, So there's two kinds of bullshit.
Yeah,
there's and it's like it doesn't matter how many different kinds of bullshit it is. It's whether it's runny or whether it's firm or whether it has fucking nuts in it. It's all fucking bullshit. There's no substance to it. So when we start asking these folks, they're like, "Oh, you're a communist? Well, what do you think about central banking?" And then they don't even either they don't want to incriminate themselves and say the wrong thing, or they don't know how to answer a simple question like that. So, it's a simple way of exposing these folks when their shit is going nowhere. Like, what's the purpose? Like when we were in Occupy and we had 12 meetings a day and 0 demonstrations in a day, and we're like, well, we're all down here, so why don't we march to downtown and really show these bankers, no, let's have a meeting and you get to speak last because you're a white male. And it's just like, well, wait a second, none of this makes sense. That's because it's not supposed to make sense. It's meant to drive a wedge. It's meant to drive people away. It's meant to confuse. It's meant to obfuscate. So that's what you have when you have that.
Or it's meant to make you feel like you did something.
Right.
Where you go out, you go, hey, I went to the Ferguson rally, I cheered, I said this, I said that, yay, I did good. And then you go home, and then what happens? Nothing. That's what happens. Nothing.
Worse
until the
than
next
nothing,
day.
though. Yeah, but what we're saying is this is worse than nothing, because this is the mind control pattern of stuff that's supposed to go on. Because like the Ferguson stuff, That's taking something that's basically gone like, oh shit, the police are like just killing people at will.
Yeah.
Like that's
police
a
brutality.
fact.
That's what
a
it's
fact.
about. It's about police brutality.
Okay, so how are you going to obfuscate that? How are you going to divide them up about that? You're going to say you're not going to take the fact that it's over the past 10 years, according to only statistics I could find, that it's 2 to 1 so-called white people getting shot and killed by police as black people. Now that being said, to be accurate and fair, so-called white people, they are a larger percentage of the population. Okay, so that's the reality. How is the Operation Mockingbird counterintelligence operation PSYOP going to obfuscate that? They're going to take Chris Brown, if that is a real event, Thank you, Chris Brown. Okay, Chris Brown's another PSYOP here in Richmond. Michael Brown, thank you very, very much. Okay, they're going to take Michael Brown. Again, is there any evidence that he existed?
Not that I have seen.
I'm not saying he did not.
Okay, no, not saying he didn't. I haven't seen a birth certificate.
Right.
Haven't seen a death certificate. Haven't seen anything other than his parents, which, how do we know they're his parents?
Right.
Because the media said so.
But again, one of them is not even his father.
Yeah.
So again, there's a level of like obfuscation.
And who was he before that? He came out of nowhere. Nobody knew who he was, and then all of a sudden he's world famous because he got shot.
Right.
And nobody knows the backstory.
Right.
You get bits and pieces that may or may not have been him. You get pictures of the guy with the money in his mouth and a gun. And this is Mike Brown. It wasn't him. It wasn't him. It isn't him. Okay. So where's Mike Brown?
That's what.
So you start, but then you start asking questions, and you get told you're a conspiracy theorist. Shut up, you racist. Don't tell us that it didn't happen because the media said it did.
Okay, again, we're not saying it didn't happen. What we're saying is it happens thousands and thousands of times over the past 10 years. And when you say thousands, it's happened like 5, 6, 7, 8,000 times over the past 10 years, where the police are on a daily basis lighting folks up, beating them to death, right and left. So why...
Black and white.
Actually, and at a higher number, so-called white, maybe at a slightly higher percentage, so-called black. But it's not like that's the only thing that happens, is that these crazy white trash cops go out and just, blindly shoot black people exclusively. That's not it. They'll go out and shoot anybody.
They'll equal opportunity. They'll shoot a dog, a cat.
I mean, a dog, a cat, a 9-year-old child, a 94-year-old man.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Somebody with Down syndrome, somebody with with mental disorder. It doesn't matter.
They strangled him to death. They didn't shoot him.
So how does the further obfuscation go with these different agents? Because this is another thing that I have gotten with one of our associates who works in the intelligence field as well, and he says, "Well, what about the KKK in Ferguson? What about the Black Panther Party in Ferguson? What about the leader of the KKK standing with a federal agent who is a black guy right in front of the Confederate flag that he normally films in front of? What about that? What about the new Black Panther Party being nothing but feds? What about that?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, folks. Like, if you really if the venom between these factions existed, these protests couldn't take place, and that folks would be at each other's throat in the grocery store. It's all bull. Don't buy it. It's bull. Like, they stole your money. Yes. Man, and another thing. Man, what are they doing with these protests? you can tell it's nothing but a fraud. Not just the stuff in Richmond, but when they announce that stuff, when they announce the verdict at night.
At night.
Okay.
I mean, that whole thing was a setup. They could have announced it. Well, it was very cold weather, so we can't announce it when it's really cold. Why not? Oh, well, because we can't get people out to protest.
They had to build it up.
They waited until warm weather where they could get more people to come out.
Sure.
They waited until after everybody got home from work. And some people started drinking. And then, now we'll announce it. If it was really a legit thing, they would have announced it at 4 in the morning.
Oh, well, this
came out with it, announced it, boom. Okay, that leads to another point. Back 2 to 3 months before that, they already announced that they were not going to put him on trial.
Sure.
My birthday, there was a tweet that went out that said...
What day was that?
September 5th.
Okay.
September 5th, they put out a tweet that said they were not going to, the grand jury said no, they're not going to do anything. So, you got that was 2 months before this. Then all of a sudden they come out, well, the grand jury is going to announce its verdict. It had already announced the verdict 2 months prior. I can pull it up. I probably should.
Well,
everybody.
I mean, we can pull that up, and whenever you want to do that, and we're gonna have a lot of stuff.
We got a lot to cover because we got some stuff already planned, so we'll just go with what's already planned. So, how about we get into the disappearing news story? The disappearing.
I got a little intelligence that they're pulling another body off out of a house in Oregon Hill on China Street. So let me verify that real quick. But another body taken from across the street. Yeah, it's Oregon Hill.
Was there another murder?
I'm presuming that's mostly heroin overdoses in that part of town. There's an epidemic of heroin overdoses, and this ties right back into the Central Intelligence Agency and Afghanistan
and poppy and all that other.
Not to mention bad heroin, which gets into the cancer drug industry, where they're mixing cancer drugs with the heroin. And but anyway. Yeah, sorry for the interruption, but this is what happens live. This is what happens live. This is it. This is the shit country that the bankers have made you live in. This is the garbage that we deal with in this shit city, in this shit country that doesn't have to be that way, but is made that way because the government has demoralized the people on behalf of the bankers. And
dumbed them down and made them love slaves. Their servitude.
They love their slavery.
Wasn't it Blair that said that? Eric Blair?
Oh yeah, I mean I think a lot of people have
said something about that. All right, let's see. Let's pull up the. You want to give a little bit of history about this clip that we're pulling up?
Okay, well we're gonna show the clip, and let's get the, what is it specifically called, because it's a really appropriate. Police
working with Richmond protesters.
Police working with Richmond protesters is the title, and basically there's some very interesting folks in here that we have on camera and other places saying that they're FBI informants, tied financially or through a place where they are engaged in work that is a front for the Department of Homeland Security or the police force, or, in this clip, I mean, we got, one of the organizers, he's standing right in front of police headquarters saying, yeah, we work with the police. And the police getting there and saying, yeah, we work with the protesters. And that,
but then you say something about it at the rally and you get told to shut up, it's not happening.
Right, I mean,
it doesn't exist.
We got the proof of all of this. Like, if anybody can get to the bottom of any question, we're questioning people saying, like, well, we have, seen, and we have video evidence on the official Facebook page, and the folks that we have saying that they're FBI informants are also the ones that are, targeted to work with the police and are also featured prominently in this video. So again, if this is some elaborate hoax being played on us, then bravo. If not, then it's just like they're telling us exactly what they're doing, because I think for the main purpose is they don't want it to seem unusual for the police to be working with the protesters.
And they're trying to make it look like a good thing that, as community, we're helping the community out by, look at the police working with these protesters. Helping
they're guaranteeing their rights.
Your rights, they're going to support you, and they don't come in your house without warrants. They don't beat you. They don't run over your foot with a bike at the protest either. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that because
they're also starting to get more frequent with their assaults. Yeah. So a lot of folks have seen me assaulted a number of times by the
famous picture of you being pulled out of City Hall. That was a beautiful picture.
Well, I'm not even just talking about those uniformed police. I'm talking about undercover police that are assaulting me and so forth, and out on the street or inside churches, inside of meetings. Yeah. It doesn't matter, but let's go because this is going to show basically all of the main folks that we're talking about that are on the ground, kind of.
Yeah, the ground liaisons between these people. We're going to play it once through so everybody can see it, and then we're going to go back and point out things.
Point things out. So we're going to watch at the same time.
As protesters hit the street, Richmond police are responding, but the picture here very different from what went down in Ferguson. Richmond reporter Laura Geller joins us live now with that part of our team coverage. Laura?
Well, different, Sabrina, in that things here in the city are peaceful. That large crowd we showed you gathered on these steps behind me in the last half hour has now made its way up to City Hall. This, despite protesters from last night having no permit and giving police no warning they'd be marching. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Here in Richmond, there were no fires started. No police cars destroyed. And no protesters hurt.
I wanted to have my voice heard.
According to Richmond Police Major Steve Drew, that is why his officers came out to meet protesters who marched from VCU through Monroe Park and all the way to police headquarters.
They have the right to express their opinion, and we're going to help facilitate that.
What started as just a few people grew and grew into more than 100.
We're just going to respect the right to protest. The group has been very, very cooperative, and they've been on the sidewalk and kept moving, and that's really, as long as we don't impact the citizens as they're driving through, people going home or going to work or whatever, and it's been, there's no issue.
It was a very different scene than what played out in Ferguson and in many other cities across the country.
The difference there is the fact that we have a voice, and we know we have a voice, and that voice is encouraged by our city leaders. They encourage us to come out, but they encourage us to come out peacefully, and they teach us how to do that.
Some of that teaching is done through a unique partnership with leaders of faith organizations throughout the city. In a way, RPD has created community liaisons.
We're called to do what we do as faith leaders. We don't interfere with their job. They don't interfere with ours, so we partner and merge.
Or is there more work to be done?
Oh, there's a lot more work to be done. We're doing it, but it can increase, it can expand, and it definitely needs to include more.
And police are keeping a close eye on the crowds now gathered at City Hall, but we're told they were given a heads up about this particular protest, and they planned for it. We are live in Richmond tonight. I'm Laura Geller for NBC 12 News.
Richmond police are responding, but the picture here very different from what went down in Ferguson. Richmond reporter Laura Geller joins us live now with that part of our team coverage. Laura?
Well, different, Sabrina, in that things here in the city are peaceful. That large crowd we showed you gathered on these steps behind me in the last half hour has now made its way up to City Hall. This, despite protesters from last night having no permit and giving police no warning they'd be marching.
Didn't know you needed to.
Here in Richmond, there were no fires started. No police cars destroyed.
and no protesters hurt.
I wanted to have my voice heard.
According to Richmond Police Major Steve Drew, that is why his officers came out to meet protesters who marched from VCU through Monroe Park and all the way to police headquarters.
They have the right to express their opinion, and we're going to help facilitate that.
What started as just a few people grew and grew into more than 100.
And we're just going to respect the right to protest. The group has been very, very cooperative, and they've been on the sidewalk and kept moving, and that's really all we don't impact the citizens as they're driving through, people going home or going to work or whatever, and it's been, there's no issue.
It was a very different scene than what played out in Ferguson and in many other cities across the country.
Of course, it was the feds who started all
the
this
difference there is the fact that we have
Charles
a voice,
Willis.
and we know we have a voice, and that voice is encouraged by our city leaders. They encourage us to come out, but they encourage us to come out peacefully, and they teach us how to do that.
Some of that teaching is done through a unique partnership with leaders of faith organizations throughout the city. In a way, RPD has created community liaisons.
We're called to do what we do as faith leaders. We don't interfere with their job. They don't interfere with ours. So we partner and merge.
Is there more work to be done?
Oh, there's a lot more work to be done. We're doing it, but it can increase, it can expand, and it definitely needs to include more.
And police are keeping a close eye on the crowds now gathered at City Hall, but we're told they were given a heads up about this particular protest and they planned for it. We are live in Richmond tonight. I'm Laura Geller for NBC 12 News.
So,
yeah, well, I didn't see that's not the one that had the.
that's not the one that had.
But that's the one that they took off the web.
Well, that's not the.
The other one.
That's not the one with Nate Stickle in it.
No.
But
you still saw some.
You saw some of it, and actually, that was really funny because they took him out. That must be like something that's really unusual because he was right there in that picture. And actually, what you saw is that he was running up from the side and he was holding that black banner at one point. But yeah, what else do you need besides that? They are. Those are the organizers standing in front of the police headquarters, or one of the organizers. And actually, which precinct is that? Because he's standing right up. Second precinct.
Second precinct.
On Belt Boulevard is what that looks like in Richmond, Virginia. And
I've got him in the photos.
I got some video with Charles Willis there. Charles Willis was probably.
Yeah, I don't really. I know where he was standing. I just don't see a picture of him, but because he was down.
Well, when he started coming around when I was around there, and there's Joe St. George from Channel 6. There's Brandon Shalita. So it was around that time. With Charles Willis, and that was.
This guy was pretty sketchy.
Yeah, well, I was wondering what was going on with him.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's Charles. Is that him?
I think that is him, right? Yeah, I think that is him there.
Okay, and again, like we have video. I have video.
Well, I've got it all on video. I just don't really feel like playing through the hours.
No. I'm saying I have a video with for right around that point. Yeah, that's Nate Stickle right there. That guy. We have. He was actually removed from the Channel 12 news story that we just showed, but
because there was another video. I'll have to find it.
Yeah,
where he's cheerleading the crowd.
And so Nate Stickle and
these guys with the hats.
And yeah, a lot of the guys with the hats. There's that guy Scotty. He works is something called Americans for Progressive Value. There's Charles Willis right there. He's the one that was saying that the police are teaching them how to peacefully protest and
allowing them to march.
While he's staying in front of the police headquarters. There's of course Nate Eaton. There's plenty of video with with us interacting with Nate Eaton. There's a Richmond Times Dispatch reporter named Brandon Shalita. Now, Brandon is a real underhanded guy, and he has helped obfuscate crimes that he knows exactly what happened, and he tells a completely different story.
And this guy was with Phil.
Yeah, Phil Waleto. He's a real operator in a lot of this activity. This guy named Phil Waleto, and again we connected him to some of the Answer Coalition, United for Peace and Justice, Workers World, Code Pink, stuff that's funded by the Tides Foundation or National Endowment for Democracy. And what we find him doing more than anything else is we find him shilling for dogmatic communism, pretending that he's an anti-Zionist while attacking anyone who talks about central banking as an anti-Semite or a Nazi, which is a typical Zionist tactic, and that's what runs the federal government. This guy right here.
He's the one who ran over my foot.
I don't know who this guy is, but he kept and when he right before he ran over your foot, I went back and looked at some of the video, and he had basically knocked me over, and I got really upset because I'm like, dude, I can't even fucking walk because
that brings another point. Why are they allowing people with bicycles to be up in amongst people that are standing?
Okay, and also, they showed the bike marshal aspect. And again, if you watch, for those who want to see and who want to go well, let's see if Glenn and Chris are full of shit, or if you want to look at a lot of footage, you'll see that we are, and we're gonna edit this down from the live show, and we're gonna break it down for you.
We're going to do another segment.
We're going to do another segment for this, but we're not making this up. We're not making it up when we're saying the Secret Service is violating our rights, or we're being detained unlawfully by different agencies for something that they are attempting to frame us for, or that we know these guys are undercover agents and they're not really undercover very, very far.
Yeah,
and they're not. There's not much.
Bad actors.
They're not what they would call deep cover, and except for the fact that that's it. I mean, that's as deep a cover as you'll get. Basically, direct agents of the Department of Homeland Security acting as if they are leaders of protest movements, and that's what we have. And I don't think anybody can dispute that because there's a lot of funding. There's a lot of documentation of who's getting paid. There's a lot of documentation that we had, that Occupy movement in the city of Richmond, that was all paid for by the city. Everything that was there for the operation of that mission to take place was paid for by the city government and was facilitated by the Department of Parks and the Richmond Police Department. I mean, again...
And here we got this whole cell here.
Right.
Of guys with the bikes. That looks like...
That's Go Gatsby. That's Nate Stickle.
Yeah.
So, again, these guys, they don't really, they just say everything's racist. There's some video of me talking to this other guy named Steven, who's always around that crew, and I'm like, do you know how like money works, money creation, banking? Like, do you know that this is, this is not really a racial issue? Like, most of the social justice issues are a matter of who has money, and it's not really going to be beneficial to me to like, jump on board. Like, I'm struggling to get by anyways. I don't want to like, go down any farther on behalf of what? Like some guy who may or may not have gotten shot by the police who's like surrendering, and then you guys want to say like to everyone else like, hey, keep surrendering, even though if that is what happened, if why these people are out there protesting is actually the correct and is actually the case, then that was the worst mistake that he did.
He got shot.
Because he got shot after
surrendering. Hands up, don't shoot. Got shot anyway.
So why are you advocating for that?
Yeah.
It seems insane unless you say like everything that they do is insane, and all that they can come back with is like, oh yeah, right, Chris Dorsey. Oh, he's funny. He's a funny guy. Like, what's so funny? I'm not laughing. Like, what's so funny? Like, or they say like, Chris Dorsey, he's an anti-Semite. Chris Dorsey thinks Jewish bankers control the United States government. I'm like, man, somebody explain to me how that's different. If somebody says to me, Chris, I know that you do all this research and, you comprehend the banking protocols more than just about anybody else, but here's how it actually works. And it is the Jesuits, it is the freaking it is. It's Jeff Lacker runs this region. What is Jeff Lacker? He is what others would call a Jewish banker, what I call a Zionist Khazar banker. That's what he is. That's what runs this country. So when you see folks that are getting to the bottom of things and saying like, we don't need the police's permission, the law says, that we have all the authority and that the police can never have any authority. And that when one looks at what the police actually are, they're a standing army. What's meant to combat the standing army? The militia. So the last thing these folks want to do is to break that up because they are feds. Okay? When you see these students at VCU, and when you comprehend the fact that there are professors that are behind a lot of these protest movements, like when we had the March Against Monsanto, what's that guy?
Who? John Lewis or?
Well, John Lewis, but there's also a guy named Rob, right? That's like a VCU professor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember this.
Okay. Well, again, like I know these people, so like next time I see him, I'll be like, oh yeah, you're a total fed. You give, you have these bullshit protests, and you give extra credit
if they show up, and some of these teachers tell them to show up and go disrupt, go do this, go do that to further the cause.
I mean, we're not getting much disruption around here. We're not getting much of anything like crazy like that.
Crazy.
It's basically just lockstep around here, and like.
But I've heard that the teachers do order. They do these experiments where they send the group out. This group is for, this group is against, and you get credit for doing.
All right, so it's not to muddle the water with I'm just going to give you specifics of how I know that Virginia Commonwealth University students and graduate students, and the graduate professors and the tenured professors are manipulating these events. For example, when Occupy started, basically I negotiated with the city government, and was going from the government to the group and telling them what was going on. And then when I would talk to some of the folks, along the way that knew about Occupy Richmond before I knew something called Occupy Wall Street even existed, they were from Virginia Commonwealth University. And when I started really pushing the initial main organizer, who dropped out not very long after that, and we'll track her down because, there's folks that we're friendly with that are in on a lot of this shit. I mean, they were having meetings before Occupy Richmond started that some of my alleged friends, and actually some of my even real friends, went to, and the subject of the meeting was how they were going to neutralize me throughout this Occupy movement. So I know this, and I know how to get answers from people, and when I know, and even students and freaking lackeys and feds, I know how to get answers out of them. And when I ask them, like, exactly what's going on, because, like, this seems like that, you know, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I don't think you're being very truthful to me, and I think I'm catching you in lies, and then, you know, the response is, I'm just doing this for extra credit. Then there you go. Yeah. And when you look at what that means, and you look at the tens of thousands of dollars and even hundreds of thousands of dollars that folks get themselves in debt, and or the extra money that they'll make with a, you know, with a piece of paper and you know, going through the footsteps of that Operation Mockingbird and like, you know, MK Ultra school system to the very top. You're talking about folks that are saying when they're doing it for extra credit in college, they're doing it for money. They're doing it for as an investment. So they're getting bought and paid for. This is not, none of this shit is besides what we're doing, and you see what happens when we get together. You see, you know, the disparate folks that flirt with us and then give us the Heisman, and then attempt to flirt with us and give us the Heisman at the same time. You know, basically what I'm saying is there, you know, it's pretty, there is no group of folks that's the opposition. The cop block group here in Richmond is run by agents of the cops, paid agents who have gotten paid directly by the cops, who are working with other individual agents, including attorneys who work with the police within the system, which is obvious. Anyone who works, we don't work within the judiciary system. When we come in contact with a judge, we tell them, look, you work for us. Fuck you and eat shit. And if you don't like it, turn tail and fucking run away. And you better fucking be prepared, because we're coming for you. We're coming for you, you bunch of criminals. Like, that's what we say to these police. That's what we say to the judges. That's what we say to these fucking lawyers, because we've been double-crossed. And it's obvious. And we're showing it. And these folks tell us that they're FBI informants on camera. And then we say, oh, no, we didn't say that. So then we say, oh, that's way down there. Then we say, okay, you're not an FBI informant. You act like an FBI informant. You say you're an FBI informant, and you're still top level in these so-called protest movements? I mean, is that...
It's way down there.
It is way down there. It's way, way down there.
I thought there was one up. I thought it was up here. Oh, well.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, there is...
Yeah, did you want to get into the show the email? Let's show the.
Okay, yeah, this is a little bit of what we're talking about, and then we'll find maybe that Nathan Stickles saying he's an FBI informant. So what we got here?
With the actual school board.
Is that if you can pause it there?
Sure.
Okay, so what we're looking at there, and then we'll pan back up to the top. Is they're showing they're showing a
call for police
liaisons, and then tagged in that, of course, is all the rats. There's the rat Phil Wilato. There's Nate Stickle, Kat McNeil.
Yeah.
I don't know Carolina Velez. I think I may be Facebook friends with her. I'm not really familiar with her. And Rad Moreno. I know her, and like I'm not sure really what she's doing, because she invited me. And of course, Josh Catterick and Dixie T. Vernon, and that name is JAWSHKIDDRDGE. That's guy's name is Josh Catterick, and Dixie T. Vernon. That's not her real name either. And she's been involved with some crazy. I mean, there's something really the matter with who they call Dixie T. Vernon, and she's a Facebook friend of mine. But like, they got, you know, her and Phil Wilato and Kat McNeil and Nate Stinton and a lot of those folks. They got involved with making up some real ridiculous bullshit when it came to me, and it backfired and it failed on them. But those are all like, I mean, they're the problem. They are, if you really do oppose the banking system, if you do oppose the police and the police state, those folks, that's the controlled opposition. That
will be against you.
Right, they're against you. Nate Stickle and like 4 or 5 other people, they spent the whole time following me around and assaulting me. You know? So, that's what they do, and they really didn't want me to interrupt and get on my loudspeaker like I did at the other one and say, like, stop surrendering to the police. But I did it anyways, and again, when they surrender to the police, I just tell them, you're surrendering to the police. I urge you not to do that. Then it says, whatever you need. I've worked with the media before, have a working dialogue with Major Drew from the Occupy days. Definitely donned a green cap, and that means this is a National Lawyers Guild, which is a total fucking FBI front. And you could tell the feds at the Occupy movement because they were wearing the green caps. You know, and all these folks, Josh Cadrick, I remember being with him and the so-called mayor of the city of Richmond, Demon Dwight Jones. And Dwight Jones, he's an idiot, like, because it doesn't really matter. And he says, and this gets back to, I guess, like the sexual orientation thing with the politicians and the protesters and, you know, the media and so forth, where Demon Dwight says he recognized Josh Cadrick, and since the Obama and the Dwight Jones campaign were melding together, and there we have another homosexual aspect with Barack Obama and of course Dwight Jones, that he didn't recognize. He says, I remember you. And Josh Cadrick responded, yes, I worked on your campaign. So these guys, like, they can pretend like they don't know each other and all this other stuff all they want, but they're all working together, and we're using their own words. Always good to deal with the police in case there's a disagreement about what we discussed. Also, it's good to pair up with an experienced person with a less experienced person to help pass those skills along. That sounds like, in order to like manipulate them, it send an experienced person along with somebody who doesn't know what the fuck is happening. You know, and I've seen him. I've seen Phil Wilato. I'm gonna have to track it down, but I got video of Phil Wilato and Steve Drew, you know, chit-chatting with one of Wilato's lackeys, who is a police informant, and I catch her doing that on camera. Again, like, this has all been documented. So there's more of it. They're working with the police. They are the police. And then when you look at their actual actions of what they do and how they obfuscate the 9/11 truth movement, how they obfuscate the opposition to the Federal Reserve Bank, how they portray us as like racist Tea Partiers, but then when you get to the, we're like, well shit, maybe we know we're not racist, but maybe we should check out the Tea Party. The Tea Party's doing the same thing. We get the same physical attacks. We get the same police informant activity from the Tea Party, the cop block folks, the everywhere. It's omnipresent. There is not a movement. We even think that, some of the folks that might be watching this, they might even be living with some of those folks in their fucking houses. So, like, I mean, it's just one of those things that we've got them on camera. They're trying to cover up their stuff. That video that Glenn just showed, that was one of several videos made. A number of folks, including the woman that we haven't identified yet, was taken out of that video, and they removed all the video away from any story associated with that, because there were, that video and that news story started being picked up.
I was lucky I got that clip.
Right. But because it has been removed, and they're putting that clip along with a lot of different a lot of different TV stations are picking up that clip. Just like with the NBC clip when we were protesting the restarting of the and when I say we, it was myself and Teddy Parham, because the Occupy folks were boycotting this event. In their little underground network, when we were, fighting the nuclear pollution of our region, when we had 2 people out there and about 6 or 7 news cameras and Times Dispatch, Weekly, Richmond Free Press, all those folks. But again, this is like an operation. These folks they can't shoot straight. They can't be honest. No matter what, they can't be honest. If they're not an FBI informant, why do they say they're an FBI informant? Why do they act like they're an FBI informant? Why are they, talking, and dealing with the police?
And then leading and cheerleading the rallies, right. and coming up to you, and you just know that the minute they come up, it's bad news, and you get that feeling. It's more of a feeling, because you see them come up. And then all of a sudden, they don't talk to you like a normal person. It's like, I'm an actor and I'm going to act.
Right,
and
right.
They act, and it's like not normal. And it's just something about them.
It's not normal.
It's hard to explain.
Right.
But you know a narc when you see a narc, because they're a narc. You see a dog, you know it's a dog because it's a dog.
Right.
You see a narc, you know it's a narc because that's what they are.
Okay,
they
and also maybe we can segue into when the Secret Service came by my house, and they had an anonymous letter, and in this anonymous letter, it acts as it puts forward a bunch of nonsense. And it matches up with anonymous letters that I found Phil Wilato sending to other Occupy folks, saying that I'm involved in some sort of plot against to be violent towards women or some bullshit like that. Who knows? Everybody who knows me knows, man, I'm not violent towards anybody. Man, when I get attacked, I get away. I don't do this. I don't participate. I try to keep my distance away from other people, and especially other citizens. But that these lies, and so basically the lie that the Secret Service got was that I'm threatening to kill the President of the United States.
Right. This is a long clip. We'll just play some of it.
We'll play some of it, yeah.
Sure. With the actual school board. Sure. Would be my thoughts, or any advancement.
Sure. Dr. Bedden has come in and has already drank the Kool-Aid. And
this is me calling Channel 6.
Where's the sound?
There is no sound on this. Did they cut the sound off on YouTube?
No, this isn't on YouTube.
Is it Vimeo?
Nope. This is on my computer. I've got it stored.
Okay.
Let's see if it works.
So anyways, I had just in issues with the Federal Reserve Bank.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, actually, I'm on. This may be them, so I'm just going to stay on the phone if that's fine with you, Robert. Is that okay? I'm on the phone with a CBS producer. And basically, I got warned from one of my neighbors that the Secret Service is coming by my house and is going around the neighborhood asking the neighbors in a neighborhood that I've lived in for over 10 years, questions about me. And of course, since they're full of shit.
I'm with the producer at Channel 6. Okay. And who are you? And why are you on my property?
I'm Agent Hallen with the Secret Service. This is Agent Ballistic with Secret Service.
Okay.
You got our door knocker? Because we were here earlier.
No, I got a call from a neighbor.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, actually, if you can step off the property, I'm just gonna actually ask you to step off the property, and I'll ask you once you're off the property, why you're bothering my neighbors and myself.
Well, we got an allegation that we need to speak to you about. An anonymous tip came in.
Anonymous tip. Okay, if you can stop it there.
Some allegation.
Okay, so again, like when we say like we're dealing with narcs and feds and rats and so forth, so like this guy shows up to the house. This guy, who knows what he knows, and the other guy, who knows what they know, because later on in the clip I catch them in any number of different lies. And so the thing is, that was a political tactic. That was, a scare tactic. That was...
that was when you were running for...
that was when I was running for sheriff in the city of Richmond. And they were late in announcing the candidates officially to be on the ballot. And they were, attempting to do some really crazy stuff. So in any event, they gave me this anonymous letter. Now, my next door neighbor, who they harassed her dog, her little Yorkie, the elderly, woman who has a little bit of a difficult time getting around. They harassed her and her dog, but she wasn't going to put up with their shit. So she said, Chris, you need to leave Chris alone. You need to leave Chris's family alone. And you're telling me you got a freaking anonymous letter? My neighbor, my elderly neighbor, frail, these fucking assholes come to her door and start intimidating her. And what does she do? She says, "Look, you fucking idiots." Now, she's much nicer than I am. You tell me you're the fucking Secret Service? You start coming around here asking questions? And you don't know this is a fucking anonymous letter? You don't know where it came from? You didn't freaking, dust it for fingerprints? You didn't fucking dust the stamp for fingerprints? Come on, what kind of technology you got? You're the freaking Secret Service and Department of Homeland Security. So anyways, this is the kind of shit that these rats like Phil Waleto will do. This is their tactic. This is a Nate Stickle tactic. Mm-hmm. Except for he's like, I don't think he's high up enough. This is more like an Alan Levenberg tactic. This is more of a Paul Goldman tactic. Yeah, this is more of a Jeffrey Lacker. So what do? These fucking assholes. The sheet of paper, the alleged anonymous tip, which they didn't research or follow up on, basically, it says that I'm going around threatening C.T. Woody, who was my opponent in the race for sheriff. And I really didn't have any opponents because nobody campaigned, nobody ran, nobody did anything. It was all just a fixed, thing. Everything was decided before it. It was a charade. Yeah, a charade. So what did happen 2 days before this is I went and got video because C.T. Woody was ducking me. So I basically confronted C.T. Woody and his lawyer, Tony Pham, on their clear violations of the law in regard to a case where they set up some sort of Alford plea where they signed a document and induced somebody that they beat nearly to death named Levante Lewis to sign away all of his constitutional rights, and Tony Pham and C.T. Woody signed a document that said that they were not responsible under the United States Constitution for any crimes that they may have committed against the Constitution, which were violations of the 8th Amendment, violations of the 4th Amendment, violations of the 5th and 6th Amendment, and violations of the First Amendment, and attempted murder. So, right after that happened, I was assaulted by a sheriff's deputy on camera, which I immediately showed to a Channel 6 news reporter who was standing right there, named Lorenzo Hall, who's very married, not to a woman. And literally. I don't, anyway, so this is what happened, and then on this sheet of paper that these folks come by and hit, say is the reason why we're harassing you and your neighbors and threatening you is because of somebody who is actually threatening and attacking you, you are allegedly threatening. And this is the sheriff of Richmond, and we've been involved in many interactions with these guys when they have their guns pointed at us and, attack us physically like I just said. So anyways, that happened just a couple days before these guys showed up, and somehow C.T. Woody gets on the list. But again, there's so much video of interactions between myself and C.T. Woody that it's ridiculous. And we can't get him anymore because that bitch runs away as soon as he sees us. And it's a good idea. And these guys, this is off of Glenn's computer. These guys filed the Secret Service and Department of Homeland Security filed a privacy complaint against me. Because
he violated their privacy.
Because I filmed them when they came on my property, and then I filmed them when they were in public. Now, they probably didn't want to get on the Channel 6 CBS News at night. They probably didn't want to get seen by tens of thousands of people. But that's what the fuck happened. You see, either they wanted to be seen by tens of thousands of people, or they didn't do their homework. Or they were being duped by someone else who was lying about what they were doing. Or they're trying to, create some sort of false agenda. But all of those things are false narrative, I should say. Their agenda is perfectly clear.
It's not false.
It's not false. It's clear. It's telegraphed. Ongoing. They might not have wanted to get on camera, and they may have not checked behind themselves. Like they said, do a Google search for Chris Dorsey. If you would have seen me discussing the unconstitutional nature of government on international television. You may have seen, discussions of my interactions with Mike Morhart, a special agent in charge of the Richmond FBI, where I start, giving, lawful claims and verifying with documents from the Federal Bureau of Investigations his crime and the crime of his agencies. And the crime of his agency. And when I'm talking about his agency, I'm talking about Michael Morhart, special agent in charge of the Richmond FBI. And my interactions with all levels of the police, from the Richmond police chief to the head of the Richmond FBI, ranking members of the Senate Banking Commission, ranking members of the House Judiciary Committee, agents of foreign government, members of parliament of foreign government, editors of local and foreign, international, national newspapers. They would have seen all of these things. But again, that's how you know they're phony. Because what are we saying? 9/11 was an inside job. The government is criminal. IRS is theft. The Federal Reserve Bank is a private bank that enslaves the public through debt. That Americans have a right to bear arms. that the people control the government and that we don't get our rights from the government, we get our rights from God. That's what we're saying. So if you do oppose those things, like, then yeah, I mean, oppose us. Definitely. That's the line being drawn. But what we are not is we're not against black people, because what we're saying, so-called black people, I should say, is we want to reduce the prison population by, by 50%. And we want to put the high-ranking government agents, replace the current inhabitants of the jail with. Now, what would that be doing? That would be taking so-called black people out of their cage and putting so-called white people into a cage. So how can that be against the agenda of so-called black people? It's not. It's against the agenda of the top, richest black people, so-called black people, white people, so-called white people, Chinese people, so-called Chinese people, but who, and then again, this is
inconsequential. Just say they're anti-human.
Right. So who is standing against the government, and who is working for the government? Who has association? Who is standing against the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and the Libertarian Party, and who gets paid by the Republican Party, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Sierra Club? Did I say Democratic and Republican, Libertarian, Green, Sierra Club? All the so-called opposition and the fights, the infighting of the same Hydra beast, they're all getting paid by the same source. And they're all getting paid in Federal Reserve notes. And they all want their cases to keep going forward as they go. If they're an undercover rat in the city of Richmond, they want to keep doing that. Even if they're being manipulated, even if they've got some shit on them and they're working their shit off. If they can't work their shit off, then the deal might fucking go wrong. I'm not even talking about everybody's getting paid. I'm saying everybody is compromised. I am not compromised. I will not compromise, because these folks in the government are my enemy. The government can't be reformed. If you think the government can be reformed, you're wrong, and you don't know enough, or you work for the government. This shit has got to stop. Maybe we can. I'm kind of looking for some way to we can segue into maybe the stuff that really is going on. Like this is the smoke screen for what's really happening. Say they just announced that, speaking of the terrorist FBI and all the criminal degenerates in the FBI, they just announced the patsies that they called the Tsarnaev brothers, the FBI, who, along with lots of government agencies, shut down, the 4th or 5th largest metropolitan area in the United States, and placed it under martial law. Place it under like a hard tyranny, not the soft tyranny of the normal martial law, the hard martial law that these guys, who we knew it was bullshit, they weren't after these guys. What is this guy, fucking Rambo times 30? Like he's got James Bond beat by 1,000%. He could outrun the FBI, the CIA, the Boston Police, the SWAT team, the freaking Homeland Security, the choppers on the ground. Yeah, they should make a Hard to Kill or Die Hard Tsarnaev or something bullshit like that. So this 19-year-old dude who likes to fucking drink beer and fucking party is now this radical Islamist, and it just so happens that his family has all these government ties, and
they were CIA.
Groups, and that all these folks that were CIA and FBI agents that were investigating this, they're winding up dead during training missions allegedly.
Falling out of helicopters.
This is the reports that we're getting. So all this BS that we know that it wasn't these guys, that this stuff was pre-planned, that they were predictively programming this stuff on their Fox television shows, on their Operation Mockingbird media, controlled media, that these Tsarnaev brothers that we know didn't have anything to do with it again, because they announced another group of folks, like a Tea Party militia group type, and then that story was just too unbelievable. It didn't test well.
It couldn't go.
It didn't get by the focus.
Couldn't play that one yet.
The freaking the members of the Screenwriters Guild of America, they threw that spaghetti up against the wall, and it didn't stick. So they came up with Tsarnaev brothers. Okay, let's go with the Muslim fucking what was that shit? Chechen Muslim terrorist angle. Let's go with that fucking angle. And now the FBI is saying, just like they did with Osama bin Laden when they say they couldn't tie him to 9/11. Nobody could tie him to 9/11, of course, because the FBI fucking did it, and the Mossad did it, and the CIA did it on the direction of the Federal Reserve Bank. And it's a lot of different moving parts and agencies, but it certainly wasn't some dude in a freaking cave in Afghanistan that's called Tom Osman or Tim Osman, aka Osama bin Laden. And again, they're just these fucking ridiculous stories. It's just these ridiculous stories. This guy, did Tsarnaev have a gun? Who knows? Maybe.
They said yes, maybe no, possibly, could be.
Possibly no, could be, probably not.
It was all of them.
Right. Who knows if any part of this story is true, but what they do say now is when it's starting to get to the point where it's like, and then they can push bullshit through the courts too, but it's like, no, there's no evidence of this. So why did you shut down the friggin' city, and how could you be so sure to put everything about this country and everything about the American way of life and how the government functions in danger for something that you're now saying didn't really happen?
Didn't happen that way.
And that
happened, but...
And the folks at the time were saying it didn't happen that way. So if they're taking all these tips, like these Secret Service agents who are getting these fucking anonymous tips, why didn't they take the tips from us that are going on the radio or going on our Facebook page or going on video or going on international television and saying, this seems like a bunch of bullshit to me. Are you kidding? They're shutting down Boston for this teenager?
And they shut down the whole city, surrounded it, did all this stuff, then they lifted the martial law, then they found him in a place where they didn't search because they skipped over that street.
Allegedly, because again, when we start talking about
alleged. Nobody, you weren't there, I wasn't there, so
Right, and that's how we do get to the bottom of things. When we are there, that's another thing we can segue into the media, because the media, there have been events that have been eyewitnessed by the media. They're sitting 3 feet away from it. They will even connect the video from multiple angles of this, but the story and the headline says something completely different. And that's the mass confusion. That's what, what was that? Was it Colby? I think it might have been William Colby, but I could be incorrect. But there's a CIA, head of the CIA, who said when everything the American people think is wrong, our misinformation campaign is complete. So it's again, this stuff, it doesn't have to be you know exactly what's going on, or you're getting the full story, or you're getting part of the truth and part of a lie. They're creating narratives. They're creating public stories in the news, but they never want you to get to what actually exactly happened. So that's why if they can write an article about what happened, their article will contradict what the video shows. So it just spreads confusion.
Well, I said it here. Where was it? I don't have to be right or even correct to act. There is something wrong in the world. That much is certain, and the axiom I work on. I know there is something wrong, and I am doing something.
I mean, I
don't know what's wrong. I don't have all the answers. Chris doesn't have all the answers. We're looking at it and we go, this ain't right.
Right.
We can see that it's not right. We know it's wrong. It's not what it appears to be. We don't know exactly what it is, but there's some, and we're going, hey, there's something wrong. And everybody goes, shut up. There's nothing wrong with that.
So what we know for sure, when we make a claim, we have irrefutable evidence backing us.
If I have document after document after document on something, that's not a no. That's provable.
That is what would be called a known known.
It's an axiom. You get there. It's a known fact.
There's a money trail. There is a check.
There.
Money has transferred. Quid pro quo. You know, money for service. Service for service. Something like that. We know that those things are happening, and then we can get into the stuff about, you know, the Ferguson psyop where they said protesters are blocking the street. No, the police and the cameras are blocking the street. The protesters are being placed there to gather. That is something very different. None of these things are organic. None of these things are you know, grassroots, as one would say. There is no grassroots. This is all paid agents and underhanded political operatives that cannot shoot straight. They cannot tell you what they feel about things in general. They get on one side or the other of a political football, and that's all they do. They get on one side or the other of a political football, and they don't like America. They don't like the Constitution. They don't like so-called white people. They don't like so-called black people. They are trying to out-angle. They're making efforts to out-angle all of the anglers. And then you just have nothing but obfuscation. But when we're saying, like, okay, where does the obfuscation lead? It leads to everyone surrendering. It leads to nobody actually doing anything to confront the real problem. It leads to a bunch of well-meaning folks dropping off.
Circles and then saying, you know what, I got nowhere, so hey, it doesn't. The protests don't work because it don't go anywhere, and it's like, well, they don't go anywhere because you don't follow up. You don't continue to keep going, and the reason they're not going anywhere, you're not aiming at the right target.
You're barking up the wrong fucking tree.
You're aiming at the wrong targets.
You're barking up the wrong tree. You're barking up the right trees. Always. The top tree in this city that needs to be chopped down like George Washington chopped down the cherry tree. Like that, because it didn't really happen. It needs to be chopped down like George Washington chopped down the cherry tree. Is the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. That if you're in Richmond, and you're one of the people, every one of the persons who works inside that building is a criminal of the highest order. Number two, then you're going to go to maybe some of the outskirt Dominion Power, like right across the street. There's your target again. They're putting life in this region at risk to make money. They are operating a nuclear bomb in multiple locations, and they're poisoning your water with cancer-causing tritium and your air too. State capital, who works with the feds. Oh, and anything to be associated with the United States government military. That's your enemy. Hey, if you're in the army, you're my fucking enemy. And the only way you're going to, stop that is if you start, working to overthrow the institution that you work for, and we start working on the transfer of the equipment from the police, those MRAPs, the automatic weapons, and the military, which is surrounding us. How many military bases do we have surrounding us? The fucking choppers that are flying over our house, the Chinooks, the drones, all those things working for the Department of Homeland Security, Army Intelligence, all this shit. That needs to be transferred over to the people. Let's pull up some Virginia Declaration of Rights, like Article 1, Section 13, or just basically Virginia Declaration of Rights. You know, we'll start getting to like, you know, what the law actually says and like what the purpose for the militia and how most important part of the most important part of the Virginia Constitution, and how in the United States Constitution the right to bear arms is if we could scroll down to like Section 13. Okay. Section 13, and this is Article 1, Section 13 of Virginia Constitution, that a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state, that standing armies in time of peace should be avoided as dangerous to liberty, and that in all cases the military should be under strict subordination to and governed by the civil power. Okay, so who wrote this? I mean, this is Virginia Constitution, Virginia Declaration of Rights. Basically, this was George Mason who wrote this, and George Mason has one of his most famous quotes, and the quote is, and I hope to get it exact, Sir, what is the militia? The militia is the entire body of the people, with the exception of a few government officials. I don't think I got that exact, but that's pretty close to exact. That the militia is the body of the people, and we have the militia as we operate, and whenever anybody shows up at any of our rallies at the Federal Reserve Bank with their weapons or anywhere we go, we're operating as the Virginia militia, and we usually do outgun the police if they bother to show up. And that we have a video militia for those who are afraid, you know, to to exercise their birthright. That's fine. That's okay.
Or maybe not even afraid, just don't want to carry your weapon.
If you don't want to carry a weapon, that's fine. This is a weapon. It's you're trained to arms, because you know what we really need at this point is
this is an arm.
Yeah, it's a camera. And
this is actually more effective than bullets.
Right, at this point.
At this point.
At this point.
Once the bullets start flying, no, that's a different story.
Well, I mean, again, and this is what we would never do. Like, we would never, like, that Ferguson...
I won't say I won't never.
Well, I won't say I won't never.
I will return fire, but I will not fire first.
But here's what I'm saying. Like, it's stupid if you know... I just tie back to, you know, some books I think are great, and I suggest to other people. Guerrilla Warfare by Che Guevara. You don't want to like match up with the police, like when they outgun you. No, that's not the way to do things. If there were real protests in Ferguson, they would have tracked down Darren Wilson. If this was real and there were a bunch of folks who were like we are, that know who's doing what, and there's a dead body, and a dead body needs to be avenged, man, track down Darren Wilson. Fucking, if you really want to put the fucking, you know, coals to somebody, fucking surround the fucking chief of police's house. Surround the top government official with pitchforks, guns, and torches. You see, this other shit matching up with the police. You see, that's how you know that it's being led by the police.
That's what they want. They want you to face off against them.
If there's going to be a face-off, they want the crowd. Let that picture of the undercover in Oakland who pulled the gun, put the gun sideways at the camera and pointed at protesters when these guys were out at his, like, things are a lot different here in Richmond because like we out them live and like they go like oh no don't worry about it, just turn around, everything's fine.
You don't see us.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like how many agents we've outed live.
Quite a few.
Bill Nelson, Phil Olato, Alan Shintzes, Nate Stickle, Kat McNeil, some folks we don't know the names of that we keep seeing on video. But anyways,
and the same people keep popping up. So.
The same people keep popping up, so it's something different that goes on. But like, it's a good thing because the undercovers couldn't do that in Richmond because if the moment anybody pulled reached for their gun, their head would be fucking blown off at close distance by, somebody who was prepared to use their gun and not just, put their gun up sideways and with their freaking, finger on the barrel, So this is getting ridiculous. Again, these guys from the Secret Service. They're not from the Secret Service. They've been seen by, 50, 60, 70,000 people now. Their license plates.
Not so secret, are they?
They're not so secret. Like, with Nate Stickle, he hasn't been exposed by that. I mean, he did get exposed, but, people have to kind of connect the dots with him. But, 500 people now have seen him look right into a camera and say he's an FBI informant with exculpatory evidence also, kind of highlighting that same sentiment that he exactly said on television. When folks go on 97.3 radio, that's WRIR, which is, heavily connected with Fareed Alan Shintzes, or John Alan Shintzes. And there's heavy connections with Alan Levenberg, and again, a lot of these people are Jews, of course. A much higher percentage of the population, whether they be Jews in the Tea Party, Jews in Cop Block, Jews in the Occupy movement, there's a lot higher percentage of Jews in these undercover, obfuscation operations. And basically, we have that. The 97.3 is paid for and funded with a grant from the Department of Homeland Security. That's how it started. So, when you think, but what is that? It's not just a regular thing. It's not like NPR. That has opinion, leftist politics in it. It has subtle stuff. I mean, I've talked to some of the station managers on there. They specifically took, and I have association with these groups. I've been to their board meetings. I've faced off with their board members. I've looked at their books. There's a lot of money involved with these folks. There's prime real estate that they're engaged in. They get a lot of, free airtime to put forward a political agenda. And I used to advertise on that station when I had a store on Main Street. But I have had face-to-face conversations. I have done reporting for this station. And what happens when I, do reporting or do interviews with international political figures like Ralph Nader, who I know fairly well, at least we know each other's work fairly well. They destroy the tapes. What do we say when we accuse the Dominion Power of being eco-terrorists? And come with the proof. 97.3 destroys the tapes. Why? Because their connections with the Sierra Club. And the Sierra Club's nothing but a front for Dominion Power. Let me say that again. John Zugner of the Sierra Club, Scott Berger of the Sierra Club, and Glenn Bessa of the Sierra Club are fronts for Dominion Power and the government.
Well, Sierra Power, or Sierra Power.
Dominion Power.
Sierra Club.
Sierra Club.
Is also the author of part of Agenda 21.
Right. So that's just Agenda 21 nonsense.
Yeah.
Just like all this stuff that we're talking about. Yeah, this guy says he's an FBI informant. Yeah, this guy talks to the Richmond police. Yeah, that girl is a state trooper. Yeah. But they all come together under the Fusion Center. They all come together under InfraGard. They all come together.
Response,
they're working together.
Yeah, it all comes back together under Agenda 21. It's all pushing Rex 84, Agenda 21, Cable Splicer, Garden Plot, Endgame.
Right, and like we don't even have to get into that.
Howard and Piven is another one that they're pulling in. That's the total destruction of the economy to bring in a new economy.
I mean, the economy's already pretty much been freaking destroyed. It's on it's on life support.
But they haven't pulled the plug yet. They're
not
ready to.
But what I'm saying is and that's all correct. But it doesn't even have to get that abstract, because we see the Richmond police are already saying even if we get just Richmond police are working with the protesters. The Richmond City Police, they're not the only uniformed police out there. There's state capitol police out there too. And VCU police.
Saw the state troopers.
Troopers. Okay, so all of these agencies, they have to be working together. And where are they standing? Where's their point of gathering? Where's their what do they call that in military terms? Like where their base of operations is, I guess, is like. It's right at the federal building, and they're leaning on a Homeland Security truck, Richmond police, state troopers, and who else is in on this? The fucking ambulance people. Like the fire department, they're in on all these bullshit operations too.
Well, they're quasi para police anyway.
Oh, you know what? That is funny. I remember one time that these fucking assholes from the Richmond Fire Department and other armed individuals tried to surround me at an Earth Day festival, which was sponsored by Dominion Power. And these guys I'm like, God damn, you guys are fucking crazy. Let me tell you one thing. I don't care what kind of fucking badge you have, or what kind of costume you wear, or what kind of organization that you have served in. Because you have served in those organizations, you're subservient to me personally, because I'm one of the people. I'm free, and nothing you or any of your agencies can do can take away my fucking freedom. Because I was born that way, before I knew any concept of government, CIA, FBI, any of that shit. And I'll tell you another thing, especially for you shitbirds in the fucking FBI. Man, your organization is just, that's a low-level shit organization. That is a real fucking shitbag organization, because that's just an arm of a larger organization called the Kappa Alpha Order. That's what started the FBI. That's what started the fucking Federal Bureau of Investigations. And most of you in the FBI, I doubt you're a member in that order, and it doesn't matter because I'm part of a larger order that goes back even farther than that, and it goes back to the origins of civilization. And the thing is, we're not giving up. We know who you are. We confront you. We out you. You have no honor. You have no capacity to do anything to us, and this is the law. Our forefathers wrote this law. All these clauses, especially this militia clause. My great grandfather was a member of the Virginia militia, the Jefferson Guard. And that's the law. Your fucking police, that doesn't mean shit. Fuck you. And fuck you for being a part of an organization and a government structure that tells folks to call the police. Oh, you need to take care of a problem? Call the police. No, that's when your problems start. Yeah. Or that's when your problems escalate. Look,
That's
you have
right.
all free will. If you want to, be a victim, don't walk around the street armed. I say to everyone, get a gun and walk around there. And walk around in groups of armed people. If you're a victim of crime, shoot the person who is attempting to commit a crime against you. Shoot them. That's as simple as that. If somebody's trying to do harm against your body and you feel your life is threatened, fucking shoot them.
Or just say your life is in danger like the police do, and they
Right,
get away with
but
it.
they're fucking liars. That's dishonorable activity. I'm saying always act honorably. Always act within the law.
There you go. Yes, correct.
Like, the police always act outside of the law. They can never shoot straight.
They
You
are.
know how? Right. No, they're not the law. They're the opposite of the law.
Yeah, that's what they say.
They're law inverted. They're like the Antichrist. That's why when we talk to the police, we go, like, you guys are Satanists. Like, you know that. Because, like, you take everything that you're supposed to do and you do the exact opposite. Just like, the Saturnian cult likes to, or the inverted so-called devil of the tarot and so forth like that. The yin and the yang, like the light and the darkness, they work all in darkness. They're low-level magicians. They're black magicians. And so, like, we are a number of different things. So I won't get too far into the esoteric of that, but again, we are the authority. And here's what it says. The body of the people. Look, that means people. It doesn't say citizen. It doesn't say person. It says the body of the people. And so, we can play your games too. Because, like, a lot of the folks that are playing this game, they're people, they weren't around the United States of America or in these colonies when our forefathers have been living by these rules. Where we stand right now in Virginia, 200 or 300 years before the government even started. So I guess that would have been, well, maybe like more like 150 years before the government of the United States started.
Yeah, it was
1600s.
Like that.
So like, we don't need the government because we already had these rules. And again, these aren't even our rules. Those are the rules for our servants. Because if we scroll up, we'll see what this says. It says, that all power is vested and consequently derived from the people. That magistrates are their trustees and servants and at all times amenable to them. Does that mean you have to, make sure you pay, taxes to the state and the federal government on your house, or else you lose the roof over your head? Does that mean that you have to freaking, pay a freaking, extra $2 every time you go to the grocery store to buy food, just so you can have fucking shitbird, scumbag wastes of oxygen like we've named before, spying on you, fucking around with you, like grabbing you, lying to the public, being just a total fucking degenerate, dishonorable, like, waste of fucking oxygen. Somebody who needs to be the next one to eat a shit sandwich and die? Is that why we're paying all this fucking money? I guess it is. I guess that's what we do work.
And I don't see anywhere in there where it says march around with your hands up saying, hands up, don't shoot.
Right.
I really don't.
It doesn't. It says, the Declaration of Right made by the representatives of the good people of Virginia. People of Virginia. Assembled in full and free convention, which rights do pertain to them and their posterity as the basis and foundation of government. So again, you want to say, we're not the people? That's what we say. We say, okay, if you want to go by their definition, like, we're the people. That's who they mean. We're the descendants of the folks who started this Virginia and United States government. Why? I have genealogical records and voting rolls from the first election after the ratification of the Constitution, which was participated in by, I'm saying the election, which means that they're the people, by people I'm the descendant of. So again, I'm the people of Virginia. We're the people of Virginia. Maybe some of you other folks of different backgrounds, you couldn't be considered the people of Virginia. And we're not saying that that's the way, but no matter how you slice it, there's no arguing that we're the people and we're in charge. And that, what do the police do when we actually confront them? The only time they come after us is like a thief in the night, when nobody's expecting it. But when we go like, hey, we want to talk to you fucking assholes. Hey, dickhead, I want to talk to you. Hey, you fucking piece of shit. And we are literally
Or
doing
even
this
if we're
to the
just
police.
nice to them and say, hey, we want to talk to you.
Right.
They run the fuck away.
Right.
So,
well, usually when they're running away is when I usually start
you try to be
screaming expletives because I want them to fucking come back. And the thing is, when we were out and John Venuti, who's head of the VCU Police Department, former major in the Richmond Police Department, so therefore Fed, FBI trained goon, TV actor, Operation Mockingbird, piece of shit. I doubt. He's a Yankee carpetbagger, which a lot of the local cops are, and they wouldn't be considered one of the people by this definition by these folks. But we would even consider somebody of a Yankee carpetbagging background like Venuti one of the people. We wouldn't consider any former government agent one of the people, but we will consider him one of the people. But anyways, this VCU student said that when John Venuti was talking to me, that he thought that this guy was charging at me and that he was going to slam my head on the ground. And I said, well, shit, I know this fucking guy, and he knows me, and he knows that if he would have come at me like that, he would have gotten 2 right between the fucking eyes. And so that's really all it boils down to. The police have no authority. They wear a costume. If you are afraid of the police, then you are fucking pathetic. If you are one of the police, you are a waste of fucking oxygen and a traitor to the United States Constitution, and you do nothing but follow orders for a living. You cannot think for yourself. Therefore, you are incompetent and you are a child because you do not do anything but take orders. That's it.
If you take orders, arrest your superiors.
Right. If there are no good cops, and how we can say this is a proof. There are no good cops because they never arrest the police. They never arrest the bad cops. And so basically, we have, 5,000-6,000 murders in the United States over probably a 5 to 10 year period at least, and basically there's an epidemic.
More people were killed here by police than were killed in the war that we just fought.
Right. So what does that mean? Of U.S. soldiers, there are more dead American so-called civilians than there are U.S. soldiers that have been killed in any of these wars across the sea. But you watch the PBS NewsHour, they'll put any one of those mercenaries for the Jew bankers now in silence. More dead folks, in this drug scheme in Afghanistan. More dead mercenaries for the international banking cartel and their oil scheme in Iraq and Africa, of course, too. But you see, the thing is, this is a war zone. This is a fucking war zone. We have been detained. I have been detained as a political prisoner of these fucking assholes on my own fucking land. Man, these fucking pieces of shit, shit. You say you're under the authority of the United States government. Man, we didn't have that shit in mind when we wrote this shit. When we're the posterity, and when our forefathers wrote this stuff that goes back even further, we can take it further back to Ireland and England and Scotland and Germany and Netherlands. We can take it back there. Let's go back. Let's go all the way back. Let's go back there. Let's go back. Again, this is this is, a big, conflict is coming up, and you're going to have to choose sides. Like, our side is the most powerful, and it's the fucking smallest. Shit, I mean, like, we can say whatever the fuck we want. Like, what is the purpose of what these guys are doing out there? Their purpose is only to get in our way. When we say the Federal Reserve Bank is the target, the Federal Reserve Bank is unconstitutional, all these political parties, political, intrigue and political conflict, which leads to military conflict, is all a fabrication, and all sides are being funded by the same central banking cartel. They poison the water, they poison the air, they poison the sky. If you ask, well, shit, who's doing the police brutality? Feds, Federal Reserve Bank. Who's spraying the poison in the sky? Feds, Federal Reserve Bank. Who's the Keystone Pipeline? Feds, Federal Reserve Bank. Bank for International Settlements, Bank of China, Bank of England, Bank of Russia, European Central Bank, and if you want to take it down to that, B of A, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Merrill Lynch, we could go down the list of all these freaking banks, but they all operate the same way, and they all get their power emanating from the same source. And it's just a Hegelian dialectic. It's the Hegelian dialectic of, well, we got it on this set, red and blue. Where they go, oh, Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm an Occupy, I'm a Tea Party. But they're all paid for and bought by the same folks. And again, most of you out there, again, we'll start saying some fucking names, because, like, I'm tired of this shit. I know who's fucking, doing all this shit.
Show, because we're going to wrap this one up.
Yeah. It is getting late. We're gonna break this up. We're gonna chop it up during the week, and we're gonna come forward with segments. We're gonna come forward with maybe like some more segments that are a little more easy to comprehend. It's like, we connect the dots in the segment. I mean, this is a good show. I mean, if anybody cares, I mean, it really doesn't seem like, anybody's at this level that's willing to step forward too awful much besides us two. I will say, Tila Williams and Chris Lane, Wes Rawson, Greg, Paris, there are a few. There are a number of, we're leaving a bunch out too. Yeah. But
there's a lot of support that we have.
But most of you, if you think that I'm talking about you, I definitely am. And it's just it. I mean, we're gonna, like, I mean, this is a bloodline battle. And, I mean, if you work for the government, even if you have my same bloodline, then you have, then you've turned your back on your birthright, and then you're the enemy, and we'll have a little more mercy on you than our enemies that are pulling the strings on you. Because when you get to the top or the bottom, it's always the so-called Jew, the fake Jew, yeah, that's all I had to say. I mean, we covered a lot, so if you want to close it up.
Yeah, I guess we'll close it there, and we'll catch up during the week. We'll do some more segments. How do you like the new setup?
Yeah,
I think we're doing pretty good. I think we don't got a lot, but we're moving ahead, and we're going to get this done, and just we're going to keep bringing you the truth, keep bringing you all the evidence, and
I will say that we've displayed everything that we need. I mean, this is everything we have. We only have our word, and what the law is. So, like, we do have everything we need. We'll get the technological stuff, moving forward in the future
as it comes along.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Get the News Straight. I am Glenn Sutphin, your host.
Alfreda Zane. This is Chris Dorsey, and I'm a man, and I'm one of the people, and you can be too.
See you later.